Welcome to the PlanetLaundry Podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we chat with Chris Ward, the president and founder of Forward Energy Solutions, a national energy consultancy based in Houston and part of the CLA Business Solutions program. Ward discusses the current state of the energy markets, which have seen some laundry owners reporting utility costs that have doubled and in some cases tripled in certain areas. He explains a few of the main reasons for these price spikes, while sharing ways in which laundromat owners can take control of their utility costs, including forward buying and the locking in of utility rates for the long term. The PlanetLaundry Podcast is brought to you by PlanetLaundry, the magazine of the Coin Laundry Association. This is the PlanetLaundry Podcast. I'm Bob Nieman, editor of PlanetLaundry Magazine, and today I'm with Chris Ward, the president and founder of Forward Energy Solutions, a national energy consultancy based in Houston. Forward is part of the CLA Business Solutions program, with Chris and his team helping Coin Laundry Association members navigate the ever-changing landscape of the deregulated energy industry through continuing education and member buying programs. Hey, Chris, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Bob, thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, given the current state of the energy markets lately, as well as, your appearance here on the podcast, it just couldn't come at a better time, I think.
I couldn't agree more, and hopefully this will kind of cue us up to do a couple of these a year. Kind of maybe a winter and a fall update. So
yeah, I love it. I think everybody could really benefit from that. But if you would maybe right off the bat, please share your professional background, as well as your company's history and its overall mission.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit older than some people might think I am. I've been in the professional world now for about 24 years. Started my career with Southwestern Bell, which became AT&T back in May of 2000, and I spent 10 years with them before jumping over into some executive recruiting, which really taught me a lot of skills about dealing with people and cold calling and trying to provide value to folks. And then that got me my start in the retail energy business back in 2010. So I've been in this business for 12 years. Worked on the supplier side, then I went to the consultant side. That business sold in 2018, which gave us our opportunity to start Forward Energy. My wife and I, Natalie, started the company back in 2018. So we're coming up here on 4.5 years, and it's been, a really great ride. And, 2018 is when Brian kind of gave me the keys to the kingdom to roll out the energy program nationwide. We were really confined to one state. And then we jumped into 5 states, and then Brian said, "Hey, let's go for it." And so here we are.
Right. Perfect. Well, hey, let's get into this. I mean, this last year has been a wild ride for everyone. Especially some laundry owners who, are reporting utility costs that have doubled, and in some cases tripled in certain markets. So, what are you hearing and seeing regarding this crisis?
Yeah. So, great information. We've seen it on boards across, social media. We've seen it in articles that people are reading. You're seeing it on your bills that you're receiving at your home and your business. And yes, we're right in the middle of these, crazy high price spikes. Some of the highest we've seen since back in late 2000, like 2008, we had some really high spikes. And then also in 2011, 2012. So, we're in the midst of it. We have seen some relief, and as you and I know, we worked on an article that'll be published in next month's PlanetLaundry. So looking forward to getting some feedback from our owners on that and letting them read that. But there is some relief in sight. As many customers know, utilities lag a couple of months behind. So even when those highest prices hit, they may not see those for a couple of months to come. But I think the important thing is to not panic. That's the one thing I tell all my customers. Don't panic. We're going to come up with a plan. Let's do some review. Let's take a look and kind of go from there to see what the next steps are.
What's backing up a little bit? What's caused such huge spikes, especially in the natural gas prices that we're seeing?
Yeah. So, back in, mid 2021, so July, August of 2021, there started to be some serious supply issues. A big part that drives natural gas prices is the weekly storage report, and that's published on EIA.gov, which is actually a great reference for customers across the country. It's probably the best information source as it relates to energy and how it affects consumers. So if you're ever interested or if you're looking for some information, I highly recommend going to EIA.gov, and there's a lot of information they can look at. But the supply numbers started to really decline rapidly. And part of that was we had a very, very warm winter in 2021. And a lot of people don't think that a lot of natural gas is used during the summer. Well, it is, because it's used in cooling, just as it is in heating for you folks up in you're up in sitting in Illinois today, and I sit down in Texas. You said it was 40, it's 75 down here today. So, we're using AC and you're using heat today. And
Right.
so when those numbers of storage really started to decline, that was a first piece. Then we started sending a lot of gas out of the country with liquefied natural gas, which is another one. Then you started hearing about the war in Ukraine. They're trying to get gas and they're not able to get their gas from Russia. So more of that gas, LNG, is coming out of the U.S., is coming out of Australia and other sources. So those were two of the biggest things that really affected natural gas prices.
Sure. It's certainly kind of a perfect storm of factors converging within the last year or so, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Uh, yeah. Well, again, after the last year, please give us some good news on the energy front. And I think you were kind of alluding to that earlier.
Yes. So, I was talking about this last night at dinner with some friends who are also in the natural gas and energy world. Natural gas prices have come down to much more manageable levels. Levels we've seen early 2021 back into 2020 and 2019. So, and this happened very rapidly. We were kind of projecting this to happen first quarter or maybe early second quarter of 23, but prices got underneath $4 for market prices, and we hadn't seen that since middle of 2021. So we've really been seeing some high prices, but the market has come back down. And I'm sure you're going to ask me, so let me go ahead and say the reasons for this were not a very cold winter yet. I know we've had some cold temps here and there, but we haven't had any sustained long colds that I'm aware of across the U.S. So the demand has been much, much lower than they anticipated. And storage made a huge rally at the end of the injection season, which ends about at the end of October.
Okay.
We're building supply. We're making sure we got enough reserves to make it through the winter. And they got to levels much higher than they were anticipated. So those two have really caused prices to fall off hard, and they've fallen off very, very rapidly.
Right. Right. Well, that's all great news. How long will it take these positive changes maybe to filter down to some customers' monthly utility bills? Because again, a lot of laundry owners are out there struggling still big time. So how long does that take, and why does that take so long?
So it's kind of twofold. The customers that are buying through a third party supplier will see those costs, the next month. So that's a good thing for them. Like I said earlier, the utilities, they usually lag a couple of months behind. And the reason for that is utility companies traditionally hedge a lot more than a supplier would. And the reason for that is the security, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later, I think, as it pertains to our owners.
Mm-hmm.
So the utility costs usually lag. And another reason that utility costs lag is because they don't always change their price every month. You have some utilities that do change their price every month, and then you have some utilities that will wait 6 months to change their price. And I always tell this to customers because I get the question a lot. Utilities basically are passing through all their costs of doing business. They don't make money off the sale of the commodity itself. They make the money off the distribution, which, as many of us know, and some of us don't know because they don't understand how it works. You still pay distribution to your utility when you're buying from a third party supplier or a retail electric provider. So the utility is still getting their money no matter which way you slice it.
Right. Right. Very good. Well, how can laundry owners in general take more control over their utility costs?
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think the first thing you can do, and it doesn't have to be a long process, but review your monthly bill when you receive it. Just take a glance at it. You may not understand the charges that are on there or the fees that they're charging you for, which is proves my point. You should definitely understand what those are, and if you can't, certainly reach out to somebody, a professional, a consultant. You can call your utility company. You can call the company that you're receiving your service from, and just ask a few questions. So reviewing that monthly bill is really really important. Number one, and then number two, we need to find out if you're in one of those areas where you are susceptible to buying from a third party, and does it make sense if you are? Because we've had many situations where I've received information from a customer and they want to switch to somebody else, but really who they're with is the best option. And at the end of the day, that's where we come in, or a consultant or somebody else, to help them to be honest with them and tell them, hey, you're in the best position you're in, even though it may not be where you want to be at this time.
Right. Right. Great advice. Well, again, backing up a little bit and talking about reviewing that monthly utility bill, what specifically should a store owner be looking for? Just
Yeah.
quickly.
So, you have some utility bills that, might be 3 or 4 lines long, and then you might have some utility bills that are 30 or 40 lines long because of all the different fees and charges that they're charging you for. But traditionally, what we tell a customer to look out for is an energy price, or a PGA, which stands for price gas adjustment. It's like a utility term
Okay.
for the cost of your gas. Or you might see like a GCA, gas cost adjustment. These utilities like to use these acronyms and these hard things sometimes to make you,
Right.
maybe, not fool you, but, if you don't understand what it is, you're probably just gonna say, okay, I'm getting
Right.
my service. When I flip the switch, my lights come on, and when I turn the dryers on, the dryers go. So as long as the natural gas, the electricity is still coming, That's one of the first bills that gets paid every month, right? But
Right.
the other things I would tell them to look for, just look at the line items, and some of it might say distribution charge or fuel charge, or they might have some charges on there that I'm not even familiar with, and I've seen it before. These utilities have a crafty way of collecting money, is
Right.
how I like to say it. And now you're going to see a lot of stuff that's aimed at going green, and these utilities are having to accept these costs to make their infrastructure more susceptible to going green and carbon free, and all these types of things. So,
Right.
you know, writing those things down.
Hmm.
Google is a great tool. I use it every day a lot.
Hmm.
If I don't understand something, so there's a lot of different ways to kind of find that information out.
Right. Certainly do your homework.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, let's talk about the process of forward buying and locking in those utility rates that you mentioned. Who's eligible, and how does a store owner go about that whole process of forward buying?
I knew the $1 million question would come up in this interview. I wish I could say these people qualify and these people don't. I mean, literally, you could be sitting right next door to me, and we could be in two different service territories. So, what we've done with the energy program is we take it on a case by case basis. And honestly, a lot of times when you have a multi store owner, I've had it happen so many times where, let's say that the store owner has 5 stores. 3 of them are in a territory where he can purchase in a deregulated situation, and then 2 are not. It could be a propane situation, or it could be a utility that doesn't participate in deregulation. So, but you're right on track. If you're in those areas, you definitely want to, look at historic. We always like to look at historical data and have that be the biggest driver of the decision making going forward. Do we lock in now, or do we wait? Now, with this last couple of years, this has really changed, I think, everybody's approach. Do we lock in, or do we just kind of ride the market price? Traditionally, what we've done in the past in the South is we've kind of ridden the market price because it stayed very very low, and it's been very consistent. Northern utilities, which have more volatility, obviously, because of the weather, we've looked more at fixed prices. Well, we're offering fixed prices to most of our customers now, given what's happened over the past years, to just at
Right.
least say, hey, it's worth the consideration,
Right.
because like you and I have known and talking about many a times, you're basically a reseller of utilities as a laundromat. And the lower
Absolutely.
you keep those utility costs, the better off you're going to be.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, hey, Chris, can you give me maybe 2 or 3 action items that today's owners can implement right now that would help alleviate some of these high utility costs that many of them are seeing?
Sure. I mean,
Mhm.
the first thing I would do as a utility owner, we mentioned it earlier, looking at your utility bill, but I'd also visit that utility website,
Mhm.
um, and look to see if they have, most of these utilities have a spot on their website that says save money or utility rebates, something that's going
Right.
to flag you down, that's going to be an area where they're going to offer you something if you're, creating, like a better building envelope is how they call it.
Okay.
Okay. And, replacing equipment, replacing water heaters, updating or upgrading your HVAC inside the structure, or the lighting, some of the low hanging fruit you and I have talked about
Right.
previous. And, I think it goes back to saying it's not rocket science at the end of the day, right? It's just taking the time to do that, to do your homework. And then honestly, if they're in an area, or if they're not sure where they're at, or they've never looked into it, I think, asking a professional at the end of the day, a
Hmm.
consultant, a supplier, or, maybe going through the CLA Business Solutions, like you mentioned earlier, would be a
Right.
good place to go. I mean, the worst thing that we could tell them is that, hey, everything looks great, and I wouldn't change anything. Which, that doesn't happen that often, honestly.
Right. Right. Well, hey, can laundry owners get in touch with you and talk to you directly about their particular utility situation?
Absolutely, absolutely. If it's okay, I mean, I've done this before on podcasts. I just throw my cell phone number out there, and I would hope that they would call me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they can reach me at 713-444-2684. And as you mentioned, I have a team of people that help me to manage our business and our customers, and then all the services that we offer to our customers. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I would love to talk to them. I talk to owners all the time, and I travel around to a lot of the CLA events, and
Hmm.
it's always great to visit with people and see what's going on. Best practices in this area might transfer to this area, so on and so forth.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, I really appreciate your time today because I know you're busy. Just one last question for you. What's one key takeaway that you'd like those listening to this podcast to remember? Someone who's struggling with this utility crisis right now. What's the key takeaway?
Okay, so I said it earlier. Don't panic. The only thing we can't change history, right? So let's figure out where we're at right now. Let's figure where you're at geographically, who you're buying from, and then come up with a plan to combat that. Right.
Hmm.
So, I know it may sound really simple, but I've seen so many people panic, and they get worried, and their mind goes to the worst thing, instead of saying, hey, this is our situation. We
Hmm.
need to deal with it. We need to take action. Okay. Not a reaction. Right. So I
Right.
never want people to react to something, but I
Right.
think action is important in whatever you're doing. So,
Hmm.
definitely take time, put a plan together. Like I said, happy to help you guys do that. And we've done it for a lot of store owners across the country in the past. We've been doing this 12 years now. So
Right.
it's been a good ride, and I hope it continues. And I don't think there's any slowdown on laundromats opening in the country. So
No, absolutely not.
yeah.
Hey, anything I didn't ask that you would like to get out there that you would like laundromat owners to know about utility prices, what's going on now, what they can do? Anything I didn't ask that you'd like to get across?
Man, nothing jumps off the page at me right now.
All right.
But what I will say, and I like to say this in most of the talks that I have, or the speeches that I give, it's really important to understand what is out there and available to you, whether that be the opportunity to buy from somebody other than your utility,
Mhm.
what rebates are out there available to you for the improvements that you're making in your store. And even we're seeing a lot of now, Bob, is like for new construction. And if they're going in and revamping a space, there are rebates and building incentives that you can get from these utilities because everybody's focused on the initiative of getting carbon free and less emissions and or
Right.
better lighting. So all that helps out the utilities. So they're willing to give you money to help you to get there. Okay. So just do your homework. Like I said, you can obviously reach out to us. Utility websites are a great place to go. And then keep looking out in Planet Laundry because there will be articles from me and other professionals, kind of coaching you guys along the way.
Perfect. Hey, great insights, Chris. Let's leave it right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great, can't believe it's already January 17th, my friend. Time's a flying.
Absolutely.
I'll see you soon.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for joining us on our podcast today. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to Planet Laundry at planetlaundry.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.